Hello, hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. Thank you for coming back to listen to more of Queen Andraya. Today we are on Chapter 25. Here we go. Chapter 25. The Chest. Slaves? Andraya's shocked voice echoed off the cement walls. Yes, Ruben sniggered at the Queen, showing all his grimy teeth. Why do you think your West Port ships to the east? Because they sail to Gulen, and not just to get sugar. Andraya lifted her chin. Chaldrea does not possess slaves. Ruben barked out a laugh. Not yet. We will never, the Queen snapped. Ruben stood in place. His once pristine black suit was now wrinkly and dusty. You will if you keep Draven around. Then he spit on the cement floor. Are you saying the marquis wants slaves in his own kingdom? Andraya questioned. Ruben shrugged as he inched his way closer to the bars. I do not think he cares so long as he can get his hands on more gold. What do you mean by that? Steffan asked. Ruben sneered at the prince. I mean, Sandrian has been rewarding Draven gold in exchange for the use of Chaldrayan ships to transport slaves back and forth between Gulen and Sandrian. Sandrian does not possess slaves, Steffan retorted. Ruben cackled. You are a fool, Prince Steffan of Deldria. Sandrian has had slaves for a decade. Andraya and Steffan exchanged looks of dismay. Sandrian has paid Draven handsomely for keeping it quiet, Ruben said, spitting out the words like they were disgusting. And indeed they were. Steffan turned to Andraya and spoke in Medianese. Do you think your late husband knew about this? Andraya hesitated but said, It is very likely. He loved his gold also. Steffan frowned, then lowered his voice even more. What about the Chancellor? He did not want you to see his shipment logs. Do you think he is hiding something as well? That thought stung for some reason. That is also quite likely, she replied. Why did you come to this kingdom? Steffan asked Ruben, switching his language to Chaldrayan. Because Draven promised it was the only way to keep the secret, Ruben growled. King Zokai did not trust the true ambassador? Steffan questioned. Ruben gurgled out a laugh. King Zokai is dead. Andraya jolted her head back. How? Then she changed her mind and asked a different question. If you have been working with the marquis, then why are you betraying him now? Ruben bared his teeth. He betrayed me first. He promised to get me out of here, but he said he could not risk it, that his hands were tied, even after everything I have risked for him. And I even suffered through his lessons to speak proper Chaldrayan. He grumbled more words in Sandrian, which the Queen figured were curse words. Steffan snapped something back at him. Then Ruben turned into a wild animal again, waving his arms frantically and screaming at the top of his lungs, while directing his verbal attacks at the prince. Steffan glared at him for a short moment, then turned to the Queen, while Ruben continued his rampage. I wonder how we can find any proof of this. Of course there is proof, Ruben yelled. Draven keeps his agreement with me locked up in his personal chest. He pulls it out whenever he wants to threaten me. Did Draven poison me? The Queen asked, pleased with how steady her voice sounded. Ruben's grimy grin reappeared. I do not know. The Duke of Gulen also despises you, or maybe it was Dolian. I hear he threw quite the tantrum after you fired him as a royal advisor. You would know all about tantrums, would you not, Ruben? Steffan noted. Ruben hissed and screamed something in Sandrian again. Thank you for proving my point, said the prince. Ruben growled and shook the bars. Steffan turned to the Queen. Let us go, my lady, unless there is something else you wanted to ask him. No, said Andraya, as she turned to make her way up the stone steps. What about my immunity? Ruben snarled. Andraya turned to face him. We shall see. Then she and the prince made their way up the spiraled stone stairs, with Ruben shouting furiously behind them. Steffan groaned. I cannot wait until he is out of my hearing range. Andraya did not respond. Her mind was racing. To think Marquis Raven was using her ships to transport slaves. What if some of her people had been taken as well? Andraya shivered at the thought. Steffan grabbed her hand and squeezed. She gripped it back as they both circled up the dusty stairwell. As soon as they reached the marbled floors, the Queen called for the butler, who came straight away. Alvin, I need you to make sure no one is in the Marquis's private quarters so I can search it. The butler's eyebrows shot up. The law states that I can if said person has been accused of criminal activity, Andraya explained. Alvin's stoic expression returned. As you wish, Your Majesty. I will let you know when it is taken care of. He bowed, then turned on his heels and marched down the hallway. Andraya turned to Steffan and whispered, I do not wish to tip anyone off until we are certain Ruben tells the truth. Will you wait here for me? Where are you going? Steffan whispered back. To change out of these high heels. I suspect I will be doing a great deal of walking soon. I will return shortly. Steffan bowed, and Andraya made her way up the marble stairs, with red carpet running down their center. Once she reached her bedchamber, she kicked her high heels off her feet. Colleen, she called. Colleen, will you help me, please? I need to change into a more conducive dress for travel, and I need to look as if everything is in order, but I truly have no time to lose. Colleen? Andraya then realized she was talking to herself. Instead of waiting for her lady-in-waiting, she changed into a dark blue dress on her own, and slipped on black shoes with much lower and thicker heels than she usually wore. Thankfully, Colleen had bundled her hair up nicely earlier that morning. Within minutes, the Queen made her way back down the carpeted steps to where Steffan still stood. She barely registered that Hudson was following her every move. Steffan was conversing intently with the Queen's footman, who was dressed in his usual gray livery and striped waistcoat. Benjamin, have you seen Colleen? Andraya asked. I have been looking for her as well, he replied. His brow creased with worry. Just then, Alvin approached the small group. Your Majesty, all is prepared as you requested. I have asked Benjamin to stand by. The Queen knew by the way Alvin said this that he meant stand watch. Thank you, Alvin. The butler bowed and walked past the staircase and through the second sitting room with the lengthy stone fireplace. Andraya led the others back up the stairs to the third floor. They crossed the balcony with marked steps, trying to act casual, but their collective unease was hard to ignore. They stopped at the fourth door where the Marquis's bedchamber was. Andraya's heart thudded nervously in her chest. She had never, ever entered another person's private chamber before, but this had to be done. Leaving Benjamin to guard the door, she and Steffan searched Draven's room for a personal chest, as thoroughly and discreetly as possible. The Queen stepped into Draven's large walk-in closet and began looking on the shelves above his hanging suits. There was no gold chest in sight. She heaved a long sigh. Wait a moment. Ruben had never said the chest was gold. She stared at his polished shoes on the floor, wondering what kind of chest she should be looking for. Then she spotted something tucked away in the corner, underneath a long overcoat. It looked like a small wooden jewelry box. She pulled it out into the center of the closet floor. It was definitely wooden, but a gold lock secured it from opening. I think I found it, the Queen whisper-called to the prince. Steffan rushed to her side, and the two of them examined the chest. How are we going to open it? Andraya wondered aloud. Steffan turned the box over and around several times. He probably keeps the key on his person. That is what I would do, Andraya agreed. Then Steffan pulled out a small pocket knife and started sawing the bottom of the chest. How is it you have that with you? Andraya asked. I have kept this on my person ever since my visit in Gulen, Steffan said, keeping his eyes on his work. Now he will know someone has tampered with his personal things, Andraya noted. Steffan nodded as his hand kept sawing with the little knife. I will take the blame if need be. "Why should you take the blame?" said the Queen, watching Steffan's hands intently as he made a small hole on the bottom of the box. "I am the one tampering with it, am I not?" "Well, yes, but—" "Look," Steffan interjected. He shook the box and dumped out its contents. There were only 2 letters. Andraya snatched one up and unfolded it. "It is written in Sandrian, I believe," she said, handing it to Steffan. The prince read it quickly. "It is a letter from Ruben to Draven. He says he will agree to come to Chaldrea to pose as Sandrian's ambassador, as long as Draven gives him a portion of his next payment." Wait a moment. He looked up at the Queen. This means the marquis speaks Sandrian, but lied to Alvin when he made the search. Steffan picked up the other letter. "This one is from King Zokai." He scanned the page, his eyes swelling with each line he read. "King Zokai says he wants to break their deal because he has had a change of heart and no longer wants slaves in his kingdom." He glanced up at Andraya with a look of astonishment. "I cannot believe that kingdom has had slaves." "And now Zokai is dead," the Queen reminded him. "So Ruben says." He took a large breath. "How would you like to proceed now?" "What else is there to do? I must have Marquis Draven arrested." The Queen tucked the 2 letters into her front skirt pocket and stood. "Wait," said the prince. "The Marquis has very strong support in the council and in the coalition." "Are you suggesting I do not arrest him?" Andraya questioned. Steffan shook his head. "I am suggesting you gather a small army. I am afraid with this man, things may get ugly." And that concludes Chapter 25. Thanks for listening, and I hope you join me next Thursday for Chapter 26 of Queen Andraya. If you would like to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.